Now I would have to revisit the Nether, this time equipped with more food, searching for another warped forest biome, which was actually quite a bit closer than I thought it would end up being. I fought off some endermen, collected more ender pearls, and returned back to the stronghold, where I placed newly obtained eyes of ender and entered into the end. Using a water bucket and extra blocks to scale the side of the obsidian pillars, breaking all the end crystals, it was a fairly simple, however repetitive task. But once it was all done, all I had to do was wait for the ender dragon to perch so I could damage it and ultimately take the finishing blow, taking the ender dragon out. Strangely, I tried collecting the egg, but unfortunately it went through the end portal, so I can't get that egg until I would eventually return to the overworld later on. Make sure to comment down below reminding me to collect this dragon egg in 200 days. I towered up to the end gateway portal, ender pearled through, and now it was time to go ahead and look for an end city that would supply me with an elytra, some shulker shells, as well as some decent loot. I cranked my render distance all the way up to the max and then started running around. I found an end city off in the distance, however it didn't seem to have an end ship, and I also didn't want to bridge hundreds of blocks across the void, so I continued my search off in other directions. However, even though I ignored the first end city, good things came my way, because not too long later I found the brand new end city, and this one featured an end ship as well. Completely skipping the main part of the end city, I towered straight up to the ship, went inside, looted the chests, and took the elytra. I also collected the dragon head, and now it was time to go into the main part of the city and get a few shulker shells to craft up shulker boxes, as well as loot some of the rooms, getting some extra loot. Until afterwards, I had collected everything I really needed, so I returned back to the end gateway, pulled through, and went through the end portal, returning back home. Overall, it was a pretty successful trip. Now back in the overworld, the first thing that I really did was crafted 3 extra shulker boxes and emptied out any other loot that I really just didn't need. I returned back to the nether, and using an efficiency 5 iron pickaxe that I got from the end city, I started collecting a ton of netherrack that I could use to build something later on in this world. Also, instead of digging out a massive room, I decided to just increase the height of the strip mine so I could use my elytra easier when I visit the nether later on in the future. Something that I hadn't done in a while was fishing, so what better way to spend some time than doing that exactly? I dug out a little pond, added some water, and now it was time for me to do some fishing. I had already done some fishing, however, once again, I forgot to start recording. Before I started fishing, I crafted up a fishing rod and enchanted it. Besides that, I spent a good amount of time fishing at the pond, later changing things up by farming at the melon and pumpkin farm. To use my elytra properly for the very first time in this world, I went ahead, used all my gunpowder and sugarcane to go ahead and craft up some fireworks. And then I started flying all the way to the stronghold, because instead of making a massive cow farm, I was just going to simply break all the bookshelves in the library of the stronghold. It was quite a simple task, honestly. After locating the library in the stronghold, breaking all the bookshelves, and obtaining all the books that I would need, it was time for me to fly all the way back home and collect a ton of wood from all the trees that I planted a little while ago. I then started digging out a room inside of one of the hills. I cleared out the areas so I could then move my enchant table into this room. I then went ahead, crafted up some bookshelves, and placed the bookshelves into that room surrounding the enchant table, so now I could get a level 30 enchant table. After doing some smaller things like adding more details to the nether portal, farming, and collecting more crops, it was time to start a bigger project once again, and that was going to be collecting villages so I could get rich in this world with emeralds and also get other useful trades such as mending. The farming that I just did would go towards trading with the farming villages that would end up giving me 1 emerald for every 20 wheat that I traded them. They also had a few other trades similar to that. I moved some villages into a hole into the ground where they would probably spend the rest of their lives, or at least until I decide to build a villager trading hall sometime, maybe in like 200 or 300 days. I went flying around, finding sheep all across the world, shearing the sheep for their wool, until eventually I would return back to the base, turn all the wool into beds, and place them into the new villager hole as well so they could breed more, which would end up giving me more villagers in the future so I could get more trades. It was pretty simple. And then it was time to try and get the mending trade from the villagers. For some reason, the villagers kept taking in turns trying to get the library trade. But after a bit of trading, I decided that the iron golem was getting in my way, so I hit it thinking that I could get out of the hole easily. But I got stuck and the iron golem sent me down to 1.5 hearts. But luckily, it also knocked me outside of the hole. That was a very close call. So I pillared up and started killing the iron golem. Get out of here, iron golem. You nearly ruined my entire world. Well, technically I ruined it myself. But anyways, I continued trying to get the mending villager trade